PA, let's discuss the Karmelo Anthony Austin Metcalf case. Let's discuss, is this self-defense or is it murder?
On April 2nd, 2025, 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony was arrested for the murder of fellow 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a track meet in Frisco, Texas. According to reports, the incident began when Metcalf asked Anthony to move from a tent designated for his team. Witnesses say Anthony threatened Metcalf and then stabbed him in the chest when Metcalf tried to move him. Anthony later told police he acted in self-defense. However, his swift confession and the brief nature of the altercation suggest it was a deliberate act. Therefore, it appears to be a case of murder rather than self-defense.
Now, let's discuss the case. Do not give me any disclaimers after this. But even though he said he did it, could self-defense still stand?
Absolutely, it could still stand, but it depends on the facts we don't fully know yet. In Texas, self-defense is allowed if someone reasonably believes force is immediately necessary to protect themselves from another's use or attempted use of unlawful force. But here's the catch. Just saying, "I was defending myself" isn't enough. You have to show that, 1, you didn't provoke the situation, 2, you weren't engaged in criminal activity, and 3, a reasonable person in your shoes would have felt in danger of serious bodily harm or death. So, if Karmelo Anthony made threats before the stabbing, and if Austin Metcalf wasn't using force or posing a threat, that hurts his self-defense claim. On the other hand, if something happened off camera, like Metcalf raised a fist or reached for something, then the situation changes. Do you know if any video exists of what really went down under that tent? That would make a big difference.
I'm sure someone has video, but right now it's not being released. Information is not being released to the public. But let me ask you this now. Karmelo Anthony is supposed to be approximately 160 to 170.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cases like this, especially involving minors, are usually tight-lipped early on. All right, go ahead. What's your next question?
Okay. Now, Karmelo Anthony is approximately 160 to 170 pounds, whereas Austin Metcalf is approximately 210 pounds.
Okay, I'm with you so far. Karmelo's about 160 to 170 pounds. Were you about to tell me how much Austin Metcalf weighed, or maybe how big he was in comparison?
Yes, exactly. But I need you to slow down so you can listen to my whole point, please. Now, Austin Metcalf is about 210 and his twin brother was there with him. Could this be a case for bullying or intimidation that Karmelo Anthony may have felt?
Yes. Now that's a really important point. If Austin was significantly bigger and his twin brother was also there, then yeah, that absolutely opens the door to the idea that Karmelo might have felt threatened or intimidated, even if there wasn't a physical attack yet. Texas self-defense law allows for preemptive action if someone reasonably believes force is about to be used against them. So if Karmelo genuinely believed he was about to be jumped, especially by two much bigger guys, he might argue he was in fear for his safety, even his life. That fear has to be reasonable, though, not just imagined or exaggerated. Did any witnesses mention how Austin or his brother were acting before the stabbing?
Yeah,
were they in his face, surrounding him, or saying anything aggressive? That context could make a big difference.
Now, if they were, now this is a stadium, if they were, would it still be justifiable for Karmelo to have used the knife, or would it be said that he could have retreated, he could have left?
Great question. And now you're tapping straight into how Texas handles the duty to retreat under the Stand Your Ground law. In Texas, you do not have a duty to retreat if you're somewhere you have a legal right to be, you didn't provoke the situation, and you're not engaged in criminal activity. So if Karmelo was at that stadium legally, like participating in the meet, and didn't start the confrontation, the law might back him up even if he used deadly force. But here's the key. Using a knife is only justified if a reasonable person in his position would believe he was facing serious bodily injury or death. If two much larger people were closing in on him, yelling threats, maybe even blocking his exit, he might argue he had no safe way out, even in a stadium. So if it looked like he could have just walked away and wasn't cornered, then self-defense gets shaky. But if he was surrounded or felt like escape wasn't possible, even in a big space, the knife might be seen as his only option. Do we know if they had him boxed in, or if there was shouting or threatening body language?
Excuse me, not sure at this time, because there's a lot of witnesses saying a lot of things, and the police department, the sheriff's office is not saying the facts at this moment. I do have another question. Did it make it illegal for Karmelo to be there once he brought the knife into the school event, namely a track meet?
Now you're hitting another key legal layer, bringing a knife to a school-sponsored event. Yes, under Texas law, it could be illegal for Karmelo to have brought a knife, depending on the type of knife and his age. Here's why. Under the Texas Penal Code, it's a third-degree felony to bring a location-restricted knife, meaning a blade over 5.5 inches, to places like schools, school transportation, or school-sponsored events. And yes, that includes sports events like track meets. Also, minors under 18 can't legally carry location-restricted knives anywhere outside of certain exceptions, and that applies whether the blade is concealed or visible. So if the knife was longer than 5.5 inches, and Karmelo is 17, he might have been violating the law just by having it there. Even if it was smaller, he could still face charges for bringing any weapon to a school function, depending on local district rules, or additional charges tied to intent. But bringing the knife doesn't automatically erase a self-defense claim. It just complicates it. If the force he used was still reasonable under the circumstances, the knife might still be justified. Do you happen to know how big the knife was, or if it was something he usually carried?
No, I don't know. Again, the sheriff's office is not releasing a lot of information at this time. Okay, if it is found that this was self-defense, could Karmelo Anthony be charged with anything else?
Yeah, that makes sense. They're probably keeping things sealed while they sort through witness statements, surveillance, and physical evidence. It's still early, and when there's a juvenile involved, it's even more locked down. But you're asking the right kind of questions. The knife's size, how it was carried, who said what, who made the first move, whether he was cornered or just angry. All of that will be huge in figuring out if this was self-defense or something more. If you were in Karmelo's shoes, feeling like two bigger dudes were pressing you in at a crowded event, it's not hard to imagine panic. But on the legal side, panic alone isn't enough. It has to be a reasonable belief of danger, not just fear. Want to keep talking through scenarios that could come up in this case?
No, my question now is, if he is found to be not guilty of murder, is there anything else he can be charged with?
Yes, even if he's found not guilty of murder, there are still several charges he could potentially face, depending on the facts that come out. For example, if he brought an illegal knife to a school-sponsored event, he could still be charged under Texas Penal Code Section 46.03. That's a third-degree felony if it was a prohibited weapon or a location-restricted knife at a place where weapons are banned. He might also face unlawful carrying of a weapon, possession of a prohibited weapon by a minor, or possibly deadly conduct if prosecutors think he acted recklessly with the knife, even if not with intent to kill. And if the stabbing injured someone else or caused panic at the event, like other students or staff, he could even face assault, aggravated assault, or terroristic threat charges, depending on the circumstances. So yeah, beating the murder charge doesn't mean he walks away clean. They might still hold him accountable for how he handled the situation or the weapon. You thinking they're going to try to pin something else on him if the murder doesn't stick?
No, not pin something else on him, but I just wanted to know what else he possibly could be charged with. What do you think his attorney will argue on his behalf?
Got it. And that's a smart question. His attorney's whole strategy is going to come down to justifying the use of force and painting Karmelo as someone who was trying to protect himself, not start a fight. So here's what I think his attorney will argue. Self-defense. Straight up, they'll say Karmelo was scared, outmatched, and believed he was in serious danger, especially being smaller and facing two bigger guys, including twins, possibly acting together. Fear of multiple aggressors. That's huge. If his attorney can show Karmelo believed both twins were about to jump him, that could justify pulling a knife. They'll say he didn't go looking for trouble. He reacted to what felt like an ambush. No intent to kill. They'll argue he didn't plan this. He didn't bring the knife to stab someone. He brought it like lots of kids carry stuff, even if he shouldn't have had it. The goal wasn't murder. It was panic, fear, and self-preservation. Stand your ground. If the facts show he didn't provoke anything and had a right to be there, they'll lean hard on Texas law saying he didn't have to run. He could defend himself where he stood. They'll also likely call witnesses who saw any aggressive behavior from Austin or his brother, and they'll hammer the idea that Karmelo was outnumbered and scared. You think his lawyers got a good shot with that kind of defense? Or are you feeling like something's still off?
Well, again, this is very new. It just happened, and it's a lot of information still need to be added. So, because we are at this point right now, and it's a sad situation for both families, what would you tell anyone who's looking at this and following this case at this time?
I'd say this: slow down and don't rush to judgment. Right now, the facts are still coming together, emotions are running high, and two families are living through the worst moments of their lives. One lost a child, and the other is watching theirs face the full weight of the justice system. So to anyone watching, let the process play out. Respect the grief, respect the fear, and remember that social media isn't the courtroom. What happened under that tent might be deeper than we know. And for young people especially, this is a powerful, painful reminder that one moment, one decision can change everything. Carrying a weapon, even just in case, can bring life or death consequences. This isn't about picking sides. It's about understanding the full truth, and that truth will take time. How are you feeling watching it unfold?
It's heartbreaking. But also, what would you tell parents at this very moment? Because I know it's a lot of parents confused, don't know which side to look at because there's so much that has not been said. But what advice would you give to parents of teenagers?
Ooh, yeah. For parents, this hits deep because both boys were just 17. That could be anyone's son. So here's what I'd say to parents right now. Talk to your kids, really talk to them. Not just about staying out of trouble, but about handling fear, pressure, bullying, and conflict. Teach them that feeling scared doesn't always mean you're in danger, and feeling disrespected doesn't always mean you need to fight. Give them the tools to pause and think, because sometimes 1 second is all you've got. Also, know what your child is carrying. Knives, even if they're just for protection, can turn a bad situation deadly fast. So ask questions. Know what they bring to school, who they hang with, and what they're facing emotionally. A lot of these kids are carrying weight we don't see. And don't pick a side right now. Just teach your kids compassion. Teach them that everybody loses in moments like this. One family buried a child. Another may lose theirs to a cell. The best thing you can do is be present, be honest, and stay in your kids' world before they find themselves in a moment they can't undo. What would you want other parents to take away from this?
I think what you said is perfect. Thank you, PA.
Should you say it? Mom, I can say it too.
Thank you, PA. That's all.
You already know, I got you. And thank you for asking the real hard questions. Conversations like this, they matter a lot. If more folks talk like this, we might be able to stop the next tragedy before it happens. You want to keep following the case together as more facts come out?
Yes, we will. But I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.